Man is in the building, of course. Jersey's finest, all about them bars, marijuana smoking. Hey, PSA announcement. I need everybody go support. That's right, support my fucking state, my city. Heritage Hip Hop, a New Jersey media source that celebrates New Jersey hip hop worldwide. Facts. And we are celebrating our legends right here, Jersey, baby. Please subscribe to Heritage Hip Hop on social media. That is Heritage Hip Hop on social media. Jersey, you know I love you. Jersey, you know we got bars and we got music and we got legends all day. And if you believe in Jersey and you love Jersey like I do, support that Heritage Hip Hop on all social media platforms. This is Redman and I approve this message.
Yo.
Do y'all see that on the screen right there?
Yes,
ladies and
sir.
gentlemen, welcome to the Mic Council. See, this is not the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast where we introduce you to your future favorite artists today while celebrating the foundation of hip hop culture. No, we're more than that. Today, this is the Mic Council where we talk about issues that affect the hip hop community worldwide, that goes beyond the beats, that goes beyond the music. Right now, we're talking about life, religion, politics, money, and most importantly, the credentials of what it takes to be a citizen of this hip hop culture. Bam! I am Karev of Heritage Hip Hop, and Heritage Hip Hop decided to go beyond the borders, go international. So we can talk to you. Yeah, take that up, please. We're talking to some. We're talking to three MCs from overseas, not from America, to talk about a song that not only is changing people's perceptions of what the trade war in America and Canada potentially is, but showing the world that different sides of the so-called war potentially started with the same beef. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves from the left to the right. Len-Dor starting.
Oh, it's Len-Dor from Canada. Thanks for having me, Craig. Thank you for everything. Your boy here's been cooking for a while, man. I really appreciate you having me here.
All right.
Yo, what's up? Pro Logic. One half of actually Frackin' Pro. Just representing for Canada, man.
All right.
Yeah, I go by the name of Fraction. Hailing up from Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Happy to be here, Chris. Thanks for having us on, man.
Yes, man.
It's a pleasure because as y'all see with the name Heritage Hip Hop, I don't do a lot of hot topics, but I do meaningful topics. And when I talk to people, it has to be not just impactful, but it has to be something that's mind-driven so we can give people the truth and not just the story of what's going on. I don't do hot topics. I don't care who booty swole, and I don't care who got money or who going to jail. I really care about you and what the art that you put out, how it affects the people. So we met Len-Dor on Heritage Hip Hop before with the Requiem, Rock King and DJ K1, but Pro Logic and Frack, I would like to know a little bit more about you. So I'll start with Pro Logic first, and I'll ask you, when did hip hop introduce itself to you, and when did you decide to marry it and have a relationship with it?
Basically, I would have to say I heard Lottie Dottie when it first came out. I'm not trying to age myself, but then I started breakdancing and didn't really understand it a lot because in Canada you didn't have a lot of venues to get hip hop. I heard that, and I heard a couple other songs like UTFO and then The Message, Melly Mel. Just the more actually, you know what? My uncle gave me the 8-track for Sugar Hill Gang. So I'm going back like 8-track, like hip hop. I don't know, man. For me, it was just something different. And I think what it did when I heard it is it started giving me an identity for myself. You know what I mean? Like, no, it wasn't no one at that time. It wasn't popular because no one really liked it. Over here, at least anyways, it wasn't like a big thing, but I just gravitated towards it. It just seemed like, because I felt like maybe an outcast, and I felt like the music was kind of an outcast-ish type of thing. Because it was different, right? So that's basically what it was for me. So,
Fraction, tell me about your story.
Yeah, man, it's kind of interesting, man. Like I was exposed to the culture very early in my life, thankfully, from a direct neighbor across the street from me. And Pro knows Darwin, so my boy Darwin, his family lived across the street from me, and they used to have a cousin that used to come in from New York every year in the summertime, and he'd bring tapes. And I think I was about 6. I want to say LL's radio record's 85, right? So I would have been like 6 or something like that. And we would go over with my tape deck and dub the thing through the air. And I fell in love with the music first. And obviously, as I got older, I started to kind of take in the culture aspect and understand all the different elements. And, I danced as a kid. I was a big dancing kid. And then, I didn't start rhyming or getting into the rhymes until about 91 or so, when I was about maybe 12 years old, right? And then gradually just kept going with it just has been a part of life, man. You know what I mean? It's I don't really know. I wouldn't know what life would be like without it. You know what I mean? But
No doubt.
yeah,
I appreciate that, because when you live in America, right, you have a very closed-minded sense of hip hop, right? Like I don't live in New York, so you already know New York has its own identity. They're the birthplace of what is called hip hop today, and New York has a very interesting dynamic when it comes to other parts of America, let alone overseas. And I want to focus on the Canadian part of what hip hop is and what it means to all three of y'all. My introduction to Canada's hip hop came in 1988 through Much Music Rap City.
Mm-hmm.
Different intro, different host. I think it's Michael Geister. That was his name.
Michael Williams, yeah.
Michael Williams. Okay, so it came with a different open. It was different energy. It was different dialects. It was different. It was a different form of expression. What America was longing for in the long run, which is people to express themselves willingly and to be heard by other demographics that ignored them. What do you say people ignored when it came to where you're from, and why hip hop was important with homegrown talent telling their story, not just playing the music that came from America? Y'all can start in either order.
Well, that's a good one, man. I think, at the end of the day, I think one issue Canadian artists always had is we've always been we've always felt like we're a little bit on the bottom of the totem pole. I would say Canada, in terms of its culture, is different from a lot of the places in America I've been to. Like, there's I don't really consider there to be a super quote unquote, urban element to Canada. I mean, there is at certain areas, but it's not. We didn't grow up with a lot of struggle, and that's that's looked at as that's frowned upon in certain circles when it comes to hip hop, because hip hop and rap in general has been kind of the voice of the struggle. So that's been always a little bit of something that's a little, it's been a bit of an obstacle when it comes to we're coming out of Canada. What was the second question though? You mentioned the Karev, what was the second question you asked?
About the homegrown talent, and what was the voice of Canada, and how was it important from the homegrown talent rather than coming from USA born talent?
I was going to say, like, there's a lot of good art that was being done in Canada, especially during the 1990s, 80s, 90s vibe era. You know what I mean? There's a good chunk of music, and we had back when the radio was a thing, we had a direct kind of ear to all that music, whether it was the Socrateses of the world or the Dream Warriors, Mishimi, all these people, right? But our voice, it's funny, like, we had a unique thing, and I think 80s in Canada, or hit rap in Canada, from the when it kind of started in the late 80s into the 90s, we had kind of there was a definitely a Caribbean element. Dream Warriors, Mishimi, there was I think Jamaican funk, I think Ludi, they're very early, and to this day, Canada has there's a Caribbean element to the rap. Joe, would you agree with me, man? Like, in terms of what you hear?
Yeah. Now I was going to answer the question when you were done, but I'll start from where I was going to start. I was like, Frack has a different perspective on it a little bit. I grew up in Ontario housing, which is like, I don't know, welfare and stuff as a kid, right? So like in the neighborhood there was a whole bunch of, it was a melting pot there. So there was a whole bunch of different races there, black, white, Asian, all sorts of people. And it was a different type of learning for me, like especially when it came to music, because a lot of people, even a lot of people in those neighborhoods were gravitating towards hip hop music, right? So for me, I would say like as far as like communities and where we come from, yes, in Toronto especially, like Jane and Finch and those areas is more going to be like there's more of a how would I say it, a Rasta influence. Like a reggae influence to the music, because they use a lot of patois slang. So that's what I would say about that. Sorry, what was the second half again? Sorry, Frank, what were you trying to get me to get at?
The importance of homegrown talent rather than listening to just USA grown talent for identity.
Okay, because well, actually, you know what? It's funny because we can sit here and act like America didn't have much of an influence on Canada, but it was one of the biggest influences because KRS-One came over here and started helping, and MC Light came over here and started helping, like Michie Me, come out. They were really trying to make a New York, Toronto like connection. So there's a lot of rappers out there like Mr. Q was one of the first rappers. He actually had the original OVO, which Drake kind of took from him, but then there was another guy, Ron Nelson, who I had the pleasure of working with. He was doing B-Boy Destruction and stuff like that. And those records actually had a huge impact. I would say more so than majority of records today had an impact, because now I find like Canada as a culture with music, there isn't much it's not about the profit. It's about our love and pushing our art more so than it is about the money, because there is no real industry in Canada. That's basically where I would leave that. Like, I don't really know what else to say about that, but Americans definitely had an influence on Canada. But as far as Canada goes, like you have your Maestro, Fresh West, and all those guys. And when he hit, like Ice-T, Public Enemy, all those guys went on tour with him. So, like, I mean, I would say there was mutual love between Canada and the States, especially when it came to hip hop music, right? It was never about who was better. So. But also, there was another thing too. Sorry, is there was a lot of Jamaican immigrants come into Canada, so that was also, I think, a part of it as well. So,
Len, you got anything?
Honestly, bro, I mean, for me, when I moved here, what I found was there was a lot of as Pro said, a lot of Jamaican influence into it, because to me, in Canada here, they do a lot of crossover. You know what I mean? They do a lot of crossover mixing of hip hop here. So that's the one thing that stood out to me, especially with Pro's production, because Pro plays with a lot of reggae and dancehall and EDM, and he tries many ways to fuse everything. And I've heard other artists and producers do that here as well. So I think that's the thing with Canada. It's a whole melting pot when it comes to hip hop. So many influences here.
Okay. Well, my understanding, right? I was introduced to Canadian hip hop. Michie Me is amazing. Shout out to Michie Me. She did a song with one of my people. Shout out to Doc Stigler, my man, right? And what I understand about Canadian hip hop, right? My true introduction to Canadian hip hop was when Raekwon went over to Canada and was establishing something with Wu-Tang there. I remember hearing Cardinal Official, and I was like, this guy's incredible. You know what I'm saying? Yes, West Indian culture once again played a humongous. I pay a debt to it for bringing me into the Canadian sound, and a lot of people, especially in today's era, do your homework, will think Drake is the beginning of Canada. When we had, I remember West Indian artists from Jamaica when in the 90s, dancehall was just becoming big in America. A lot of them went to Canada and was infusing a lot of sounds there. Also, I'm from New Jersey. A lot of the Rutgers football players would go to Canada to party, Carabana and stuff like that, and they would wear their jerseys, and they were celebrities when they really sucked. You know what I'm saying? So no, I'll hold no punches, y'all. They suck. So I mean, I know the influences that Canada has had, has taken and has given, and that's why it's a valuable part of the fabric of hip hop. I'm gonna ask you this question, all three of y'all, as a person who looks at America from afar but takes part in something that was American born. What is the voice that Canada gives hip hop that America takes for granted because it does not know it exists? Oh, y'all ask real questions, so y'all could take your time on
that. Repeat that one more time, bro.
With Canada being important in hip hop, what is the voice of Canada's hip hop that through ignorance the United States might not understand because they don't know about it?
I think it's the fusion part. I think Canada does a lot more. You could see more of the fusion here than in the US, if that makes any sense. Like, you will see much more of Jamaican influence in hip hop music here than you will see in the US. That's what I've observed. So guys like groups like the guys like Socrates, Chocolair and these guys, they do a lot of cross fusion, right? Cardinal Official, you know what I mean? They do a lot of cross fusion. When I first started getting introduced to Canadian hip hop, I didn't move here as yet. And my very first introduction to Canadian hip hop was guys like Chocolair. Socrates was the guy who was doing it then too. Like he was doing it big. That's when he was doing the whole crossover with Wu-Tang, with Method Man and all those dudes. Like that's when I started really delving in to Canadian hip hop. So I think that's what it is, because I think Canadian hip hop was much more. They made much more brave moves, incorporating other different cultural sounds into their hip hop. That's just me.
I was gonna say to you too as well. Like one of the most influential as far as like the reggae crossover for me is Tough Dumpling, which was Nefarious. I don't know if you know of them, but Tris is my homeboy. He's really dope with it, and that's what he does really well. And that's the Jamaican crossover into hip hop, though, right? What else was I gonna say there? I was gonna add something else, but yeah, you know, when you interview and it just goes in and out. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of influence, and they weren't even the first ones to do that too. Like as far as reggae, reggae was happening down here, like especially in the neighborhoods I was living in. You would hear that all over the place, like even with the breakdance and all the stuff going on. That's what you'd hear over here. But go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
Oh no, I agree, man. Like I agree with Len-Dor, man. Like the musical elements here have definitely always been a little bit effusive in terms of, you know, because we have a lot of cultures here, man. Like Canada is this is the thing. I look at Canada, comparing it to the rest of the world. We're a very new country, right? And everybody in Canada, for the most part, is new immigration over the last 150 years. You know what I mean? So there's people from all over the place, and it's a cool culture, man. Like, and I think the music represents that. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I was also going to add on to the last question you asked. I think that Canada has a big influence on American hip hop in the sense of holding the line as far as like what the actual culture is about. You know what I'm saying? So like we basically, if you come over here from America, and we've been in this, me and Frack have been in this before. We open up for some really dope artists or something. We just want to, you know, have some fun and be like, yo, let's cypher, let's have a freestyle, let's freestyle. Some of y'all guys in America think you want to knuckle up or something, man. And it was like, no, it wasn't that. Like, we just want to, you know, freestyles. Oh, we're not here for that, man. We came here for the bitches. It was like, ooh, okay, shit, all right.
Talking about Sporty Thieves, bro.
Yeah. That was funny.
Holy.
Yeah.
Taking it back to the 90s, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to we said the bitch.
Oh, my bad.
So no, it's cool. Look, shout out to my man Burt McGirt.
That wasn't me. That's them saying that to me, man.
So shout out to my man Burt McGirt. He said MC Supreme, Brother A, Sunshine, Ebony Crew, all Canadian hip hop pioneers. So shout out to my man Rock King who checked in. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important that people get that, because hip hop, from my definition, is our expression from God. That hip hop is not music. It is accepted through music and expression, but it's our direct lineage to God. Because one thing about God was always about praise and worship and expression. And unfortunately, and I'm glad you brought that up, in America, of course, everything's about corporate greed. So poverty is the one element that makes corporations thrive here. So what you're saying about people not knowing how to cipher and things like that is because when you hold someone's poverty over their head and you jiggle the scrotum of prestige over someone's head, they get attracted by the loins of greed and not attracted by the point of morality. And the farther you go away from the mainstream, the more in depth you see the cultural aspects stay alive. That's why I love how you said decipher. I love how you said freestyles. I have an artist that I'm very good friends with. Shout out to As Is, by the way, of the Outsiders. That's my man. But I have an artist that who told me that he was in a business meeting with Rick Ross and said we should cipher and, you know, celebrate the fact that we had a business meeting. And these mainstream artists don't want to cipher anymore because if they can't rap, they lose their money. So God and morality has lost when it comes to when we take away the point of why we express, not why we express. Not to be long with it, I want to ask you this. How has hip hop made you love and appreciate yourself more, being that now you've been grafted into something that showed you the art of wordplay, the art of beats, the art of dance? What do you say? Oh yeah, take your time. Go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you this, right? For me, I fell much more in love with me as an artist because of my peers, if that makes any sense. I think Pro, Fraction, a lot of these artists I've worked with who I have immense respect for, when I see them gravitate to my music and my style and my work, and even guys like you, Crab, when I see y'all embrace what I do and really understand what I put out in my music, you know, I think it's very encouraging. It motivates you more to want to get better and do better. So I think, yeah, for me, it has impacted me greatly, very much greatly in improving and getting better. You know, I'm much more a student now of hip hop than a know-it-all, if that makes any sense. I thought I knew it all until I met these two white boys right here, because they know exactly what they're doing.
Go ahead, Fred. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I think what the culture has kind of given me in my life, and if that's kind of the basis of the question is Joey, I think you alluded to this before, was the idea of like it's just a self-identity. When I was a kid, I mean, like I was a sports kid, you know what I mean? I had an identity as, an athlete, you know what I mean, when you're a kid. But when I got into the music and I started putting music out, and the art kind of was like, it's kind of like my legacy, to be honest with you. It's almost like a reflection of my soul, right? So I don't know, man. It's you almost live for it. I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like the creation, the art of it, man, like it gave me confidence as a kid, you know what I mean? And I was, you know what I mean? It gave me something to be confident about and excel at. And that self-confidence kind of, you know what I mean? Like that, it translated in all of the other avenues of life, you know what I mean? So I look at that, you know what I mean? I look at the music and the art and the culture itself as just being, you know what I mean? It's an integral part of life, you know what I mean? But
I agree with all that. More or less, for me, is like I think when we first all get into this thing, we want to be part of something, you know. And I think it's a collective of outcasts, to be honest with you, you know. And then at the end of the day, like the amount of shit I've been through with this music stuff, it's come to a point where it's like I realize now that I don't need to be a part of something because I am something. You understand what I mean? I've achieved something now. Like I'm gonna die on this hill, man. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be doing this no more. Like I'm pushing like 30 years, maybe more in the music, right? And I haven't gotten no damn awards. I haven't gotten none of that shit. But that was never my real drive to do it. You know, it was more or less, you know, this is what I do. This is where my relaxation and therapeutic stuff comes in. You know, so anything I'm feeling, you know, like I write that down, get it out. That's what it is. So that's what gives me my identity. You know, it's I think the same for the other guys. You know,
that's beautiful because hip hop is the extension of the civil rights struggle. Hip hop is the extension of the human and civil rights element of being heard. And I think in America, we always hear about us. And even when I was a student in school, it took me an epiphany to find out, damn, when U.S. history happened, world history happened at the same time. It's like, oh shit, Napoleon existed when this asshole existed. Oh snap, they knew each other? That's crazy. So even with hip hop, when you hear about the LA riots, you hear about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Tamika Mallory, et cetera, that even other countries, we have people fighting for people's rights, people's freedom, people's choices, people to be heard. What are some of the major events in Canadian history throughout the years of hip hop that helped mold the hip hop sound and even mold you as a writer and MC?
Honestly, bro, for me, I think for me, the 80s, bro. The 80s for me. And looking back into the history of the struggle of not only us as Black people, but who helped us in the struggle as well. You know what I mean? I think sometimes a lot of us, especially in our Black community, we get kind of ignorant to the aspects of that, yeah, we fought for our equal rights, but there were other races that helped us in that march, right? A lot of people didn't understand that. And for me, seeing that unison between the small pockets of black and white and other different groups that helped us strive to get at equality, I think for me, that's a very motivating factor for me, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? When you see like what those people had to go through in Mississippi, the people who died, who were killed by those cops, a lot of people don't understand that there were white folks who were down there, Jewish people and white folks who went there to help with the legal system down in Mississippi, and they got killed in the process. And they were like some of the simple cogs in the wheel that helped us to get where we are today. So for me, I think that's what motivates me to write, because it helps how should I put it? Emphasize those things more in my music, the pain, the ever growing fight for equality for everyone, you know, the whole drive for me in my music is to highlight and to fix, if that makes sense. That's my whole perspective.
Frack, you want to go?
Give your thoughts, Joey. You're good.
No, I don't even know where to begin on that, to be honest with you, because in Canada, when it was more political stuff going on like that, I kind of found from what I could see, my view, not speaking for anyone else, is like a lot of the races and people came together to fight for the same cause. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, no matter if it was a black issue, Indian, any sort of issue, we'd all come together and fight for the same cause, you know, and that's what Canada used to stand for. Now it's so divided. It's bizarre. You know what I mean? It's very bizarre. I grew up here my whole life, right? Descent is Italian, but I'm born and raised in Canada. So like what I've seen is you know, I think everyone here is at a point now where it's just like they want to stand for what they stand for, but they don't know what to stand for anymore because they want to be on the right side of history. You know what I mean? They don't want to make the wrong decision because they, you know, so easy nowadays to say the wrong thing and get canceled or taken out of context and just, you know, made an idiot. You know what I mean? So it's you could have great intentions with what you're saying, but the wrong person get a hold of what you're saying and twist it around the right way, you're going to look stupid. So but what I'm just going to say to kind of stay safe is I believe Canada at one point was altogether unified, completely down for each other. And now I think it's a divided culture, really. And I never really saw too much of I didn't really pay attention to the news when I was young, so I didn't see a lot of politics when I was younger, but now I see things a lot different. So that's where I'd have to leave that.
I was gonna say, like, going back to the question. So I think you had alluded to like basically events that would have kind of structured our experience, right? Was that the question?
Yes, pretty much.
I'm trying to keep it, but to be honest with you, man, I think the big one for me, man, it wasn't really events. It was, I think, eras. You know, so I think, you know, what I think about in my head, which was a huge turning point for me, especially, you know, as a young guy, say like 10, 11, 12 years old, or, you know what I mean? I was being exposed to stuff like, you know, my moms and pops got me the Public Enemy Fear of a Black Planet album on tape when I was like, I think I was 10, you know what I mean? And the subject matter, you know, that was kind of was part and parcel of the music at the time, not just PE, but like, you know, your KRSs of the world, you know, a lot of the guys back then, you know, your Rock Kims, all that, they exposed me as a young kid to I'd look at it like it's almost like higher learning. You're thinking about social issues and history and all this stuff, right? You know, being, you know what I mean? Like all these, you know, awareness, stuff like that. That was the big turning point for me in my life when it comes to especially the way what I do with my music. You know what I mean? But I would say the era, the 85 to 80 to 90, 1990 era, you know what I mean? And I was really, you know, the formative years, man. You know what I mean?
The beads and medallion era.
Yeah, you know, but there was
beads and medallions, you know.
But as a young kid, you're exposed to these, like, you know, the subject matter was mature, man. You know what I mean? Like, you got Chuck D talking about interracial relationships on songs and etc. Like, those are things that, like, you know, as a 10-year-old white kid, you know what I mean? It was cool that, you know what I mean? It's good to be exposed to that stuff and to have awareness of, like, you know what I mean? Of other people's struggles, you know what I mean? So, anyway, that's kind of where, you know, that's kind of how I'd answer that, but, you know.
I love where we're taking this interview, ladies and gentlemen. How are y'all doing out there? If you like what you're hearing, please drop a comment, hit the like button. We also want you to subscribe. You want to donate to the platform, $ Heritage Hip Hop is the Cash App, as not only we grow this platform and to be even more phenomenal with what it is, but we want to bring it to you. I want to go to your state. I want to go to your city. I want to go to your country and do something live. I need to go out there and see y'all. I need to touch some snow. I need to touch Toronto and Quebec and all that. I want to see something different. You know,
you don't want no snow, man. We got way too much this year.
That's all right.
It was stupid.
Yeah, just about 10 feet of snow the last.
You want feet?
Trust me.
That's cool. As long as I'm somewhere laid up where I'm comfortable and got some good company, I'm straight and food.
All right.
I'm straight.
You're staying inside though. You're staying inside.
I ain't worried about that. I just want to be in good company. You know what I'm saying? So we hope y'all like what y'all hearing. We're going to go to a commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. And then these gentlemen, one of them has been here before, so he kind of knows. But we want to do something a little different. So, ladies and gentlemen, relax, and we'll be right back.
Where you get your hip hop from? Yeah. What's up? This Tribal Trigger Trench in the building. You already know. Nip, naughty.
Hey, Redman is in the building, of course. Jersey's finest, all about them bars, marijuana smoker. Hey, PSA announcement. I need everybody go support. That's right, support my fucking state, my city. Heritage Hip Hop, a New Jersey media source that celebrates New Jersey hip hop worldwide. Facts. Please subscribe to Heritage Hip Hop on social media. That is Heritage Hip Hop on social media.
What up, y'all, man? It's your boy Do It All, Do Pray Kelly, right here on Heritage Hip Hop, man. Look, man, let me tell you something. Make sure you support Heritage Hip Hop, because without these brothers bringing you hip hop, we're not gonna stay informed, man, the way that we need to stay informed, man. And they're not just giving you hip hop, man. They're giving you the heritage of hip hop, right here, man. Yo, Kareb, I see you. Heritage Hip Hop, man. Let's do it. It ain't nothing like Heritage Hip Hop.
I told you I vibe to my own shit. I ain't worried about nobody else's platforms. We are live here on Heritage Hip Hop with 3 gifted MCs from Canada, Len-Dor, Prologic, and Big Fraction. And now we're going to talk about something very important when it comes to the social climate of the world and hip hop's responsibility to it. Gentlemen, I want to quote Nina Simone, kind of, I'm paraphrased, where she said, "An artist's responsibility is to reflect the times in which they're living in." And gentlemen, y'all have recorded a song it's talking about the times that we're living in, is pulling people into accountability and what they've done or what they're doing to the people of their respective countries. Let's talk about the song Bullpen on the album I Need My Flowers by Len-Dor, produced by this gentleman Prologic, and the song Bullpen also features Big Fraction. Put that up right there. That's right. Y'all see that CD right there? That CD has been featured as a blog on heritagehiphop.com. I ask that you go to heritagehiphop.com, read it, and then click the links and experience a phenomenal album. But here's my thing though. If you like it, stream it. If you love it, buy it, and afford yourself the opportunity to not only own your music, but to give these artists the respect they deserve, because you don't stream food, you don't take a bite and give it back, we don't stream clothes, you buy it and you fresh with it. So if you like the music or you love the music, please sow into the ministry and make sure you give them the opportunity to not only feel their appreciation, but give you the opportunity to get more music. Oh, and by the way, if the electricity ever goes down and or the internet goes down, and if you don't own your music, you can't play the shit. So if you like it, please buy it. Okay. So let's talk, y'all. Let's talk about the social climate of Canada, because you said, or like Prologic said it, you said that now there's more division going on in the country. What the hell is going on over there? Because I know what's going on over here. It's very, very ugly. And I want to give people who say that hip hop was the extension of the civil rights struggle, hip hop is the voice of the people. Let's give the people a voice. Y'all could go either or. Y'all could go down the line. What's going on in Canada, and who is the prime minister, and what has he done to make y'all feel this way?
Oh man, Oh man,
who's
Len-Dor.
going? Frack, you can go. Len-Dor, you can set it off. I don't care.
Bro, it's all you.
Call me. Oh shit. All right. So what's going on in Canada? I'm going to speak for myself because I don't want to include these guys in the assassination of ProLogic, but I'm going to say it like this. I believe our government, as long as even other governments, have been infiltrated by shadow governments that want to come in and push an agenda. I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, or you think I'm a whack job, conspiracy guy, whatever, but that's fine. World Economic Forum. If you go and look into World Economic Forum, they're telling you exactly what is happening. They tell you before it all happens. Because the thing is, I think here, especially in Canada, we have such a small population. I think everyone, I would say 85% of them are way too comfortable in the culture here, what we do, like every day to day, like it's very relaxed. So they're very comfortable, and they don't think that their government would turn on them or do anything funky to them. But if you can look close enough, you can see exactly what's going on here. When you got someone from the NDP constantly giving one person power that they don't no longer deserve, and the people have spoken in this country that they don't want this man in power anymore. So what does he do? He withdraws. And then after that, what do? They put this guy named Carney in place. Well, they did the same thing in America. Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada now, if you don't know this. Trudeau had stepped down, but this is the thing, is there's a lot of weird things going on as long as like they say they prolonged the parliament, but Carney just said that he just basically scrapped all the carbon tax in Canada. He can't do that without the parliament being involved. So basically what he's doing is lying to the people so he can get votes, so he can get into the election, and what the Liberals would get a fourth term or whatever you want to call it. But I'm more or less just looking at it from the perspective of, if you look at Australia, if you look at United States, if you look at Canada, when the whole pandemic went down, it was all under control by the same people. And that's the whole problem, is we can't just let one group of people control all that power. So that's just my opinion. I'm not speaking for Frack. I'm not speaking for Len-Dor. I'm speaking for myself. This is what I see. So if anyone wants to add on to that, I could talk about this shit all day. So I'm gonna just zip it and pass it on.
You know what? I would say, like, what really what's really been the issue. So we get, like Joy had mentioned, we've had a liberal government for what has it been 12 years now?
10 years.
10 years. So, and it's gotten to the point where they started overstepping their boundaries. And during the COVID era, where, obviously, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the whole trucker thing that would happen.
Convoy.
Yeah. So, like, you know what I mean? Basically, the government overstepped and basically froze people's accounts and all that. Basically a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? That's like super off-putting. You know what I mean? Like that's not a free society if you have a government that's overstepping like that. Not just to mention that is, socially, we got insane. I have children. I go to school, and I mentioned this in my verse in the song, if I'm not mistaken. But like the stuff that the identity politics and all that nonsense it's being brought in through the current government is allowing for this to happen. We have a conservative premier in our province. So our province, we have premiers in our provinces, which are kind of like a state senator would, or a governor. We have a conservative premier in our province. We have a liberal federal government. In order for the conservatives to feel like they can keep up with getting votes and stuff, they basically have to appease the liberal federal government. So you have a bunch, it's gotten super far left to the point where there's now a lashback, right? You have people that are like, okay, enough with all this nonsense. The left's gone crazy, the spending, all that stuff. So at the end of the day, it's time to kind of flip back. So you have people that are divided socially. They have different beliefs. You have people that are on one side or the other, whatever. But you also have people that crosshatch politically. So it's created for a mess, right? And I think I'm assuming you guys are experiencing this on your end too, right? Like, in terms of, I would say it's, I know the election's over and stuff, but there's definitely polarization. You know what I mean? And I think that's, it's the worst I've ever really seen it. I think it's fed through social media, etc. But yeah, it's crazy out here, man. It's, it's different, man. Like, we'll see what happens. Like Joey said, they're going to call for an election, and you know what I mean? The guy's trying to get votes right now. And I think, the conservatives are worried they're not going to win as many seats as they, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but you know what I'm saying? But
don't disagree.
Well, For me, what really stands out to me more is the attack. I agree with both of them. I agree with Fraction too. It's over the years of me being here, back and forth, playing football and traveling and visiting, you're seeing a very serious change socially on how they want to try to fashion people's minds to their really left ideologies about family, religion, even how immigrants are treated here compared to the locals, which I think is kind of unfair. You know what I mean? So it has been, from when I moved here to now, years ago, you're seeing a great difference when it comes to equality and equity. It's not even at all. It's very much very scary to see how they're treating, recent concepts that are blatantly nonsense and want to put that ahead of what has been naturally there since the dawn of time, which is ridiculous.
Okay, just to add on, I just wanted to say this too, man. I really feel like, okay, so I've grown up in Canada my whole life, and I'm not the only one who will say this. It's not the same country. It's not the country we grew up in at all. It's completely gone, like, it's flipped on its head. And it's to a point where it's like the politics are running our lives now. Before you could live, you could have a job, and now it's rules and mandates and this, like, when you can't protest, this is the thing that I've got to say is, when you can't protest in your own country at your own parliament without the cops and other military being brought in from other, UN or whoever that was at the actual convoy, but you can have these protests, and no offense to anybody, but anybody who's, protesting Palestine, for instance, and you could put up Canadian flags and burn them and tell them, death to Canada, death to United States. I'm sorry, that's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned in Canada, and it shouldn't be. The Canadian people should be coming first over anybody in Canada. It's the same with Americans, I think. American should put American first because those people work for that country. It's fairly simple if you ask me, but that's what I just wanted to add on.
I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, hip hop has always been the people's response to the mainstream, because now we get to hear from the people's perspective. The name of the song, once again, ladies and gentlemen, is Bullpen on the I Need My Flowers album by Len-Dor, which is available now on Bandcamp. You can go check it out. To go into the project, we'll do that a little later, but with the voice of the people being heard, now you know the backdrop of what the song is. Now, I want to ask you this before we go into the music. Society fuels the artist's ability to create. With everything that you've experienced or after you have expressed, is it frustrating for you to make music that talks about where you live or how everything is going, or is it liberating for you to do such a thing?
Liberating.
For me, it's a bit of both. And Pro could allude to this because there's certain things that is truth that you want to say, but corporate wise, it's suicide, if that makes any sense.
It does, but I'll tell you this: I don't give a shit about corporate. So I put out an album last year. I put out an album last year called 2030, and every song on the record's talking about this whole thing. I will actually send you a digital copy of it so you can check it out. But serious, yeah, I've been more so than these two guys, man. Like, I've lost friends. I've had family attack me on this shit, and it's just like, you know what? It's to a point where it's like, you know what? I got to stand on this hill. This is what it's not that I believe in it. It's what I know. It's what I know to be honest to myself. I can't sit here and live a lie. I can't sit here and lie to myself and be like, like I said, I'm not speaking for these guys. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a man is a woman and a woman is a man. I'm never going to do that. That's my political stance on that shit. I just, honestly, I have to speak my truth because this is my life and I live with my regrets.
All right, so let's move into the music. I Need My Flowers, produced entirely by Pro Logic. You use a lot of you use some interesting samples, and you use a lot of interesting drum kicks and things on this. I was really intrigued by how a lot of this came together. And you engineered and everything, mixed and everything.
Yep.
I want to say one of the songs that you got me stunned on was "False Prophets." We talking faith now, y'all. We talking about people using religion to give their own narratives and to the people and what the people do with it. Can you tell me about how you put that together? And Len, I want you to talk about what inspired you to create that song.
You gonna go first? Or you want me first? Go ahead.
You go ahead, bro. You go ahead.
No, but basically, I'd done probably, I don't know, maybe 100 beats, and I've been sending Len-Dor beats. And this guy is just like, yeah, it's dope, but not me. Nah, I'm not doing this one. Nah, I had a beat similar to that, so I was like, okay, listen, I got to come up with something different. And to be honest with you, that's what I'm saying is I like his drive on things. He really made me like, and we're talking about doing a next album. It might take 10 years for that next record. The amount of like, creativity I got to come up with to make sure like it's authentic, it's different, it's something original. There was no real thought, like, because basically what happened was I made the beat and I sent it to Len-Dor. Len-Dor came up with the idea of the song over the beat, so it wasn't like I created it around an acapella. So that's how that went down. But then he sent me the acapella, and then I arranged it around that. I just thought, like the breakdowns and stuff, you just got to let that kind of breathe when you're talking politics and stuff like that, whether it's religion or anything. It's got to be able to breathe, and you got to be able to understand it clearly. So that's why I broke down the beat and everything the way I did. But yeah, I'm glad he took that beat, because if he didn't, I probably would have done something on it myself too. So yeah.
For me, the beat for False Prophet spoke to me because the sample that he used was very dramatic. You know what I mean? It's very dramatic and striking. So what I did, I placed some dancehall cuts on it. The cuts that you hear, the dancehall cuts, I placed that on it, right? And when I send it to Pro, what I do, I send it back to him. Like, yo, I like this. I like how it sounds. I think this is the element. And the reason why I chose to write about that concept of false prophets is because there was one time, Jordan Peterson, he's like a spokesman here. He's like a huge psychiatrist here, but he also has a lot of opinions about, how young men are growing up through these times, right? And influences. And you're speaking about religion. And one thing for me, I'm very serious about my walk with Christ. So I think the Black community, we are very passive when it comes to some of the things that goes on in the Black church. And I have seen over COVID, not only in the Black church, but also in the white conservative church as well, where you see a lot of these pastors are using their positions for some of the most heinous things ever, right? There was one pastor who, I call him the Gucci pastor from New York, who they caught scamming people. Eddie Long, Creflo Dollar, all these guys, even Joyce Meyer. You know what I mean? Some of the things she has done and said that has, when I go look in my Bible, because I was brought up in church, and the church I grew up in put you through a very extensive Bible course when you're young, and I've always kept to that. And a lot of these preachers are saying things for effect. They're not saying things for change. They're not sticking to the actual principles of the word. So for me, just like Pro, how he feels about politics, that's how I feel about my spiritual walk. And the thing is, when I look at a lot of these so-called evangelists and so-called preachers, their churches and their houses are getting bigger, but yet their congregation are not even looking equally as successful as they are. So for me, that's why I went up inside their head with that one, because I think us as artists, instead of us tiptoeing around these social things, we need to start calling them out, because of the fact that is part of what we do in hip hop. We highlight the bullshit. We highlight the obvious. We don't just create music just for you to dance and boogie and jiggy and all that shit and say, yes, boss, no boss. You know what I mean? We don't do music like that no more. We supposed to be basically put our foot down and say, listen to me, that's bullshit. Let's highlight it and get them to change and put the magnifying glass on them. So that's why for me, False Prophet was that type of record. It was like, I really wanted to highlight that, and I wanted to show the anger and the disdain I had for it. You know what I mean? When I said things like New York preacher rocking that Gucci, Stars Coleman, turn your shirt to a smoothie. You know what I mean? I'm letting you know it's time for y'all to get out of here now, because y'all are just overdoing it now. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're showing no reform whatsoever. And everything is being masked as if like it's a BET award. There's no really serious sit down of structuring, of teaching the word of God. Everyone is doing it for the likes and the loves and the Instagram, whatever. That kid who I spoke about, Mike Todd, you remember when he spit on his friend to prove a point on the stage? He got up and spit on his own right-hand deacon to prove a point. What the theatrics are overdoing it now. You're gonna spit on your friend, hawk and spit on your friend to prove a point? That's ridiculous. So he was the first one that was in my crosshairs, and I had to cook on that track. So that's what I'm saying. Those are the things I like to highlight and bring to the table, because they really are doing that. I think personally, though, not all, but a lot of the black churches have not helped this community, bro. They have not. A lot of them have found ways of making money, utilizing the propaganda, and this thing called prosperity gospel is a lie. It's always been a lie. So these are the things I try to highlight and let people know, listen, open the book for yourself and read it. There's no such thing as prosperity chapter. There's no such thing as that. So that's why for me, I'm very serious. That track, False Prophet, Pro gave me a very good slate for me to cook on, and that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Talk about that's deep. Okay. Yeah. And that goes into other songs, like, because the songs on the album actually blend into each other very well, production wise and subject wise. Like, this is a very good album. Like, if y'all really like hip hop that has something to say and not something to shake your ass to, you're gonna get some nourishment on this one. One of the songs that reminded me of things me and one of my best friends talk about all the time is The Lies of Life. That lies of life. Like, you think life is this way, and you turn out to find out that was some bullshit, because life is really this way. Or you're grown thinking one thing, and then life teaches you something totally different. You know what I'm saying? Prologic, I want to ask you a question. See, when you write rhymes, because you write rhymes and you produce. So when you write rhymes, you hear one voice, and when you make beats, you hear another voice. Like, there's two different languages going on. How I see it, you could tell me if I'm wrong. What does that beat say to you? And Len, when you get his answer, how did that translate to what you heard when you wrote that? And shout out to your man, what's that? Schwa James. Schwa James. He eloquently put manhood in a 16 that not only will fuck you up if you don't understand what manhood is, but it will prepare you better than any book and test ever has. It was really done for me in school. So please, Pro.
Okay, as far as like when I hear a beat, like when I first started doing all this stuff, I think anyone's going to probably relate to this, is when you first start hearing music and you start writing raps, you're just writing raps. You're kind of following the rhythm, whatever, blah, blah, politics of that shit, right? But it's more or less like, for me, what I end up doing now is I find a pocket. I find the pockets. I try to find the spaces to lay my vocals where they're supposed to, create another rhythm. I'm not trying to be like a Rakim where he's playing, like when he raps, he plays like a horn. Similar to that, but not the same thing. I try to find patterns within the music. That's when I'm writing to it. Now, when it comes to like making the beats and the music, when I chop the sample basically tells me what to do. If you're listening closely, it's not just, I'm going to grab this and put it together, and it's going to, again, it's the same kind of thing with the rhyming. There are spaces. You got to give it room to breathe. You got to be able to, that's basically it. The track has to breathe. So with the vocals or with the beat, you kind of sometimes have to make those subtle little lines. You know what I mean? Like, I've worked with a lot of rappers that I've had to look at them and be like, yo, that's dope, but you got to say it in lesser words. You're saying too much and it's jumbling up the line. So remove this word and this word. You're saying the same thing, but keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean? Like, keep it simple. Sometimes simple is the best way, So with that in mind, like that's how I cook up when it comes to either writing or whatever. And also it's a vibe, right? Like when you I'll make a beat sometimes, I won't vibe to it for like a month or two, and then I'll come back to be like, what, I slept on this, like what's, and then get on it, write to it like I've never written before, like write 2 verses in half hour, like get on it, right? Like me and Frack, our first record, he'd come over, we'd have a drink, we have a smoke, and then we get into the pen, and within an hour and a half, we have a song done. That was our first record that we did that. But that's my main the way I get down. So
for me, Lies of Life, the concept of Lies of Life, the beat spoke to me. Now I'm a huge Little Brother Fonte fan. Huge Little Brother Fonte fan, right? So to me, when I approached this album, I was trying to make my own version of The Minstrels, their album, which I think is one of the best albums they ever did. And when Pro gave me that beat, just the way it started alone spoke to me. It gave that atmosphere where I could tell a story or tell them a concept that really bugs me. So The Lies of Life is basically a perspective track. It's a track where, again, comes back to these two dudes right here, where it's like, I think a lot of people don't understand, especially in our Black community too. We are so taught from the pain point of view of race that we forget that other groups go through the same struggles we go through outside of the concept of race. Poverty, not having enough, broken homes, and all that stuff. Like one thing a lot of people don't know is that the white group here in Canada is bigger than any other group here on this whole space, right? And if we really pay attention to them, we could see similarities of what we go through that they go through too in their life as well. Broken homes, poverty, no money, stress, not having no one to lean on, being discriminated against. So for me, Lies of Life, I wanted to highlight that and show people, listen, it could be a lie to you, but it's a truth to me. Everything is perspective. Everything is perspective. So the chorus to me is when I put that chorus together, Schwa is a perfect example of what I'm saying. Schwa is a short Black guy with the most Caucasian voice you will ever hear. And that I'm telling you as a love, I love that dude. That's my boy. But if you listen to Schwa speak over the phone, you cannot tell, bro, until you see him in person. But then when you sit down and listen to Schwa and listen to his struggles and his life, you could actually really understand it. The brother is one of the most smartest brothers I've ever met. That day when we did that video, he opened my mind to so many different things. But it just shows you that you have to be careful you judge people. Careful how you judge people. Careful how you look at someone, your assumptions of someone's situation or the assumption of someone's color or culture. You don't know what they're dealing with. And they could probably give you the answer to your situation. But because of your built-in ignorance of when you were younger, what you're taught, when it comes to race and creed and situation, you're going to automatically assume, Frack can't understand my black struggle. Or he can't understand what it is not to have nothing to eat. You don't know Frack went through that. So this is what I'm saying. So that's why when I wrote that song and Schwa felt perfectly into it because he understood the concept of what it is and he did his own perspective. That's what I wanted to do. You just don't know, bro. You just do not know.
I love how y'all put that because I always say pain is universal and love is relative. Everybody knows what it's like to hurt, but everybody doesn't know every measure of love. You know what I'm saying? And to get back and focus on the music, I want to focus now on the main reason why we're here is the song Bullpen. Because from the intro of the song is already setting the stage to let you know you went for some shit. And there's certain lines in the song I want to bring up. Len-Dor said, Trump was an angel compared to this fool. We ain't stable. In our country, right, Trump is such a divisive figure that, I mean, we have We have racists going into black neighborhoods, getting beat the fuck up. Yay. Getting beat the fuck up because they're doing stupid shit. We have people celebrating people being kicked out of the country, whether right or wrong, only to find out that their wives or husbands are getting kicked out as well because it falls under the regime's opinions. Trudeau was the picture on the video when you said Trump is an angel compared to this fool. How? Like, break that down for the people here who don't understand.
Well,
how?
I'll say this, right? So I've seen Trudeau make some moves here that were kind of questionable, right? Where it's like, you know, when it comes to the biggest problem we had was the immigration situation, where basically he brought so many people from a different continent here. Even the locals who were born and raised here couldn't get a job. And I looked at that man stand up many times on television and try to come up with these false statistics saying that there's work and there's enough for all Canadians and whatnot. But yet when you go on TikTok, you're seeing locals here suffering, bro. Women breaking down and crying, men losing their jobs. Just the other day, my wife showed me a video of a young man here who is literally 35 and he's trying to get a job. And he can't even get a job in Tim Hortons. That's the equivalent to Starbucks. And that's all because of the unchecked influx of immigrants from one continent that he brought in. And he never made any attempt to even say, well, I was wrong. We miscalculated. No. He kept on spinning that wheel. And for me, that to me was kind of like an eye-opener for me when it comes to him. Because I was like, really? Like, you realize what you just did? And then on the same spot, the country's hurting for money. You go give $3 billion to Ukraine. So tell me how that makes sense. Then what you did, you turned out and said to people, okay, we're going to give you a stipend. I think it was him or Doug Ford. We're going to give you a stipend of $200 a month return. Where people needed much more than that, bro. He was just basically trying to hold on, but it didn't make any sense, bro. A lot of the problems that we have right now stem from over COVID, from his decisions, and then he just doubled down on a lot of things after that, him and his cabinet. And to me, with Trump, you know what you're getting. I don't agree with everything Trump does, but with Trump, you know what you're getting. With this dude, bro, he stands there and smiles in your face and then shafts you, bro. Nah. Something about that dude is just slimy, bro. I just don't like that dude.
All right, hey, look, unless somebody else wanted to talk.
I was gonna say like this, like I agree with Len-Dor on a lot of it. More or less, I think America and Canada had the same issue with immigration, and it's not. This is the real thing. Is majority of people have no issue with immigration. It's the infrastructure that's not in place, right? So it's like if you stop and take a look at it. Basically, the Democrats and the liberals were letting all these people run rampant into our country, and it was only for votes. You can stay as long as you vote for us. This is one of the biggest issues and the biggest problems, because it's just like politicians, all politicians. I'm not going to say it's conservatives or liberals or Democrats, Republican. All politicians want to hold on to power as long as they can. Right. And they don't want, it's not going to, it'll be a fight to get that power back from them. Basically is what I'm trying to say. But more or less, like the immigration thing is like, I honestly do believe, though, a lot of people do not have a problem with immigration as long as the infrastructure, the housing and the jobs are lined up for these people when they show up in the country. It's never been like a race thing or anything like that. It's infrastructure. That's what I believe. That's just my opinion on it.
All right, well, let's move on. Politicians is ostentatious, making them demons, anxious, false angels, false narrative, false influence. Talk about that, Frack. That's your words. Talk about it.
Jeez. Well, it's self-explanatory, right? You know what I mean? You gotta say it again, man. You said that so quick, bro. I'm like, shit, what did I say?
It's the beginning of your verse, bro. You got it.
It's funny, like I don't know, man. You know, man, like basically, you know, politicians are almost like, you know, Len-Dor kind of touched on it. Like they're not real. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, you got to read through everything they say, and that's why I mentioned them being ostentatious and stuff like that. False narratives. You know what I mean? It's all to get votes. It's all to kind of win. It's all, you know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's basically what I was touching on. You know what I mean? But you said a lot there, bro. You said.
Okay. You said self-explanatory. Well, yeah. One thing, as a profession, in my profession, I'm a teacher. When I see schools teaching our children changing definitions, making the hero into the villains, willing to kill millions, that's deep right there. Because if one thing I learned, history is taught by the people who win and survive, not by those who lose and try to stay relevant. And hip hop has always been the loser's way to tell their story. And Prologic's verse right there hit me because as an educator, we're always taught what to teach. We're always taught how to teach. But when you really start to teach, that's when you become critiqued, and also you get censored. Prologic, talk about what you were talking about in your verse and how censorship has not only hurt people's expression, but hurt how people are learning, in your opinion.
Well, if you look at Canada, there was a bill passed called C-16, I believe it is. Basically, we can't even share news on our Facebook here. If there was an article, okay, so put it this way. My son is severely disabled, so they do this special Halloween thing in my neighborhood. So my son was dressed up, and basically they came and interviewed to find out what was going on with him. You know, what was he dressed up as? And, you know, it was very creative because he's basically in a wheelchair for his duration of his life right now. So we decked out his wheelchair and stuff, and I couldn't share that. Because it was on the news. It was a good thing. Had nothing to do with politics, had nothing to do with anything that you'd usually, you know, be censored on. But I was censored just because I wanted to show off my son. So that's one way. But as far as the art form goes, I think people are afraid to say what's really on their mind because they're afraid of the repercussions. It's like the fact of the matter is look at for example, like when it came to when COVID hit, all of a sudden they changed the actual definition of immunity, like your body's immunity, right? They changed herd immunity. They changed the definition of this, right? So I'm kind of going off a little bit, but at the same time, I'm more or less just saying, like, if you were to try to express that, they might censor that because they don't want that being out there, right? So censorship is, you know, it's hard to touch on because you had like NWA talking about fuck the police, right? Like you had that going on and there was no censorship really on that. They tried to censor them, then we fought against it because we wanted to hear it. But I mean, when it comes to politics, they've got to basically just put it this way. Justin Trudeau probably would have been gone a year ago if we were allowed to share the news because there's so many corruptions and scandals and everything that have gone on that we know nothing about. Like even before he was elected, he had a whole bunch of people paid off. He lost his job as a teacher for touching people. Like he touched somebody and paid them off, a minor. And that was in the news. Look, Shrek's all like, oh shit, he's saying it.
Len-Dor's like,
but no, that's a fact. There's been payouts. There's been payouts that would be all over the news that we'd be talking about, and I just don't think these guys would have power anymore. Like it's censored when the people say it. It's not censored when they're spreading propaganda. And basically, here in Canada, Justin Trudeau was sitting there bragging about how he spent $600 million to pay off the media to say what they want him. Whatever he says goes, basically. So
that's sick. And it goes into like, it kind of reminds me of why they got rid of TikTok from this country, because people were sharing real news from the ground with people, real American or Chinese or Canadian or let's say Ukrainian or Russian people were talking, from the street and not letting the news speak for them. And that goes back into the point of what we're talking about, which is hip hop, because hip hop was and is the voice of the people from the ground level, letting the world know what's going on. If hip hop has a responsibility to talk to people about Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau, tariffs, trade wars, economic woes and struggles, if hip hop has this responsibility, what, in your opinion, do you think hip hop can do to bring change and keep the people aware? What can hip hop do to make sure these things are not, these things are not forgotten, and that we could pass these lessons and this knowledge on?
It's got to be in the discourse, man. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, not every song has to be about that stuff, but you have to be, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I mean, I guess you can't really, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You got to make people aware of things, you know what I mean? I think you can't help but speak of what's really going on, right? So that's the responsibility at the end of the day, you know what I mean? But Joe, I don't know what you guys think, but you know what I mean?
For me, I think we have to be a little more honest with ourselves. We have to take a step back and ask ourselves if what we're producing now is beneficial for the young ones coming up. I think that's the key thing. I mean, because I think now hip hop now has a lot of shucking and jiving in it. There's a lot of dance around the situation, don't say it at all, close your eye to everything. There's a lot of like, real diluted perspectives and behavior right now when it comes to hip hop, all because we want to be politically correct. And I think that is hurting our society greatly. I also think too that, we need to have true freedom of speech back. Not just what is cool, but just don't say that. You know what I mean? I think we need to have that come back fully into what it used to be like in the 90s and the 80s. Because right now we're living in a real censored situation. In Canada here, you say, if I send a message to you, Krev, over TikTok, and they have a thing where they run it through where it's like certain words are flashed, that message will never get to you. That's how serious it is here. So we have to really step back and ask ourselves, like, what are we really doing? What are we helping people by hiding things from them, or are we just doing them a great disservice and putting them in a delusional bubble?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm gonna speak for you guys in the same sentence. Is more or less like this. I think what the bottom line for, I think, the three of us is now when it comes to music and creativity and all that stuff, is like it's got to be more creative now. It's got to go outside of that bubble of being savage and being braggadocious. And I'm gonna quote my man S. It's grown up music. You know what I mean? We're making grown man rap. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what we're trying to do now. Like, the one problem with hip hop is it was a young man's game, and we started with this. Now it's growing up. We got to teach these young ones, like how to. It's basically KRS-One said it. Rap doesn't teach you how to raise a child or treat a wife. You know what I mean? It doesn't do that. So what we're doing now in the music now is we're putting more actual life into the music, and it's more cultured life. It's Jamaican life. It's Irish. It's Italian. It's whatever your background may be. You're spilling a little bit of different content that way. I think the politics is definitely necessary, because just like in schools, they don't teach you income tax. They don't teach you how to budget. They don't teach you the important shit that you really need. You know what I mean? So they teach you how to be good and compliant. And here, I'm going to teach you by memory rather than actually learning. Like, that's just my opinion on that. But anyways, not to go off topic, but I honestly feel like the days of this, in my opinion, for the grown man rap, like the days of the hoes and all that shit is done with. Like, if you're out here at 50 years old rapping about, selling crack and stuff, like nowadays, man, like, really, dude, like, come on, man. Yeah, I wish you would have done better with your life. That's all I got to say to you.
But isn't that that's about balance? Because I mean, what you're basically implying to me, if I'm hearing y'all correctly, is we need balance, and we need Now with the times that we're living in, we're going to need to have some political hip hop. You could dance and everything, but we're going to have somebody to really out there. But this is my problem with American politics and hip hop or American music is Sexy Red is a star.
Why?
But D1 is not being heard. Or we have people like, and I'm not going to just blame females because they just say you're just blaming females, right? But you'll have people, I don't even know any of the mainstream people because I really don't care to know them. And it's easy to say Sexy Red because she's always in our faces. So no disrespect to Sexy Red. But look at D1. D1 is talking about God and being held accountable. You don't hear his music anywhere. And I got backlash on an interview that I had where I said Lecrae is a piece of shit. Sorry, I don't care if you're a Christian rapper. I don't care if you tell, whatever. I don't care if somebody says we gotta take into account the blessings of slavery, and I'm like, what? And you agree with that, man? And you're doing this on TV? I want to punch you in your throat. I don't respect that.
All I'm going to say. Cheers.
Okay. Yeah. Cheers.
Yo, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
But I want to focus on y'all, not my opinion. But what I'm saying is, it sounds like you're saying we need to have more balance. But here's the thing. Balance leads to righteousness. Imbalance is a dis-ease and breeds corruption. So if the game is corrupted already, how can hip-hop fight against the game to survive, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, doing what we're doing now and having guys like you, Krev, who still carry that torch for it. I mean, just the other day, someone heard my album and they were like, that song called Angel, right? And someone told me, I love the whole record, but I don't really like female songs though. So I was like, okay. I came from an era where when you bought an album, there was always a female joint on it in one way or the other, right? And for me, I'm a huge fan of that type of genre of music. So for me, it just shows, to me, what it shows is that there's that lack of creativity, and honesty when it comes to the hip hop, where people feel as if like they can't put their hearts out no more. A man can't sing on a hook and talk about how he feels about a woman and how he should treat a woman. You know what I mean? Like you have a lot of overinflated bravados now in hip hop. You know what I mean? If it's not street, if it's not hood, if we're not talking about keys, crack, cocaine, if we're not speaking about that shit, it's not hood. And we need to come out of that mindset, bro. Some of the best albums I've ever listened to are people who never lived that street life. Odyssey is one of those guys. Odyssey. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things I like to hear. At this point in my life, I'm not trying to hear about how fish scale and powder are not the same and how to sell it. I'm not trying to hear that no more. Right? I'm trying to hear something when I sit in my car, I'm with my wife, I'm rolling, it's not poisonous. I don't have to look at my nephews in the back and say, don't say that. Don't tell your mom that. Like, I'm not trying to hear that kind of music no more. I'm trying to hear music to nurture my mind. Make me more creative. Let me delve into other aspects of my life. Let me talk about being a father, being an uncle, being a mentor. Like, you know what I mean? These things are very important to me now. Like, I think we need to have a sort of a wash of those type of records now and just bring in a new frequency. Bring the frequency back to KRS One way of thinking, Rakim way of thinking. Like, these dudes were teaching us shit, bro. Now you're not learning anything. I know now how to cook crack from just listening to other projects right now before I can even hear something positive. I know how to whip cocaine and all that shit now. Like, I don't need to hear that, bro. It doesn't help me. Look at Crep.
that was astonishing. Okay. All right. Well, hey man, look. You what's one, my man? You Walter White. All right, I got you. you know how to get it. All right, Breaking Bad. The album. I get it. But you know what, y'all? I want to tell y'all I appreciate not only the song, but I appreciate the project because one thing about balance, it gives you an equal share of what is and what is not. So it leads you to want more, but it leads you to appreciate. Because listen, y'all, we're in a different time. This thing right here has killed a lot of what makes y'all special. Because I remember back in the day where you had to save up chore money, lunch money, and stuff. Me and my friend talked about all the time how we had to like take our money for lunch for the week and decide if we're going to eat lunch or we're going to go buy an album. And now everything's right here. So music is such a commodity that it's not appreciated. I wanted to tell y'all thank you, and I appreciate the album. I appreciate the verses. I appreciate the production. All right? I wanted to say that. But we have to close out this interview. We've been here for over 20 minutes. Has it felt like that to y'all? Have y'all had fun?
No, man, I can talk some more, man.
Well, that means you could come back on the show. So if you would like to do a review of your project 2030, we could do that on here. Frack, I want to hear some music from you. I mean, you have a good voice. So I would love to hear a project of you. And Len, look, you my man, yo. We went the first time we met, we vibed intellectually. You know, I'm an intellectual person, you know. So I want to give y'all that respect. But out of respect to the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast, Len knows a little bit about this. The rapid fire questions. These are not yes, no questions. These are questions that talk about your acceptance and understanding of the hip hop culture that you are a part of. Now, Len already asked, I asked some of these questions. I'll let the viewers ask questions now. Shout out to JoJo Gadgets on Instagram. I like to have people ask questions in the comments. So anybody in the comments, if you have a question, you can ask it. And someone said I kind of lead y'all in a direction with how I ask questions, and y'all be waiting to answer, but I be talking too much. So I do my thing. So here's a question from my man Burt McGirt, one half of one of the greatest, a great hip hop collective. You know, shout out to Shoreline Entertainment. He said, "How much has the Drake versus Kendrick beef changed your perspective on hip hop culture and music?" Y'all can answer that.
Who wants to hit that first?
Pro, you go first.
Okay. To me,
wait.
Go ahead.
Let Fraction, because he hasn't talked in a while. Let Fraction.
Okay, Frack.
I only had 2 words. It hasn't. You know what I mean? I just recently just kind of learned. You know what I mean? I didn't listen to the songs, or whatever. Right? You know, because I don't really care, man. I think, you know what I mean. I will say the Meet the Grams was pretty cool, though, bro. I like that song. You know, that's about it. You know.
Yeah,
but I'm getting serious. You know, but.
No, I agree. I agree with Frack. I think they overgassed it for one. I think the best diss track of all time is No Vaseline. That's just my opinion. But as far as Drake and Kendrick goes, when I heard the whole Kendrick album, and this is no knock, it was not much different from a Drake album, which it was more R&B than it was hip hop to me. That's just my opinion. But I like them both as artists. I think they're all right. Like, Drake is not my favorite guy. I don't listen to Drake much at all. Kendrick, I got him in my playlist, but Drake, all he has to do is drop an album for the ladies, and he's back on board, you know?
Well, Pro and I had a lot of debates about this.
J. Cole.
Late in the night when I came home from work many times. But honestly, though, I've never been a Drake fan, man. His music doesn't speak to me. It speaks to 18-year-old kids and high school kids. Does not speak to me, bro. Kendrick, on the other hand, I can appreciate what Kendrick is doing because it's much more aligned with my frequency, the positivity, the realness, and all that stuff. But when it comes down to the beef, for me, it was comedy. It was comedy for me. That's it. For me, it was comedy. I'll be real with you, bro. It was all comedy. It wasn't serious for me.
Until Drake's house got shot up.
And that was fake. It was proven to be fake.
All right.
It was theatrical. It was just, to me, I just think it was just fun. That's all. I didn't take that beef seriously, honestly.
Yeah. Same.
All right. So come on, y'all. Come on, Len. You can pause. You can mute your mic and just laugh for a little bit. Pro and Frack, this is your introduction to, well, you've been introduced to Heritage Hip Hop, but this is the rapid fire questions. Question 1, Pro first, then Frack each question. What album or single from another artist perfectly describes you?
Shit, I'll say Follow the Leader.
Dude, it's funny because I was thinking Rakim too, and I'm not thinking of Follow the Leader. I'm thinking of oh man, that's right, Puff. But like basically, you know what I mean? It's not anything early Rakim. You know what I mean?
That's a cop out.
That's a cop out.
That's a cop
Okay.
out.
Frack can have follow. You can have follow.
My melody.
Okay.
My melody.
My melody.
Yeah, it's 12. It's
Okay.
12. Yeah.
All right. What's the greatest hip hop beat ever made? Meaning, if you had it first, should have been your first single.
Ooh,
that's tough, man. There's so many.
Okay,
dude.
I'm gonna go back to this. It's gonna be one of two. It's either gonna be Peter Piper or it's gonna be 900 Number.
Oh man, Peter Piper would be ill. You know what other bit? You know, I used to really like Sucker MCs. No, but you know what? It's funny. I just heard it today, so I'm just gonna throw a beat out there that I really love, bro. The D'Angelo Primo, man. Fuck this lies. Devil's Pie. I love that beat, man. I love that.
Cannabis turned that down.
I know we did. I know. I heard. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Cannabis, like
yeah.
Right. Hip hop has such a global impact that you can see where a person or a group made such a dent in the culture that it changed the landscape of where you were from in style, vernacular, speech patterns, and everything. Len, you can answer this one too, if you would like to. What group or artists, solo artists, impacted your area so much that you've seen the change of music and style in your culture?
Maestro Fresh West, Let Your Backbone Slide.
Hold on, is this just Canadian artists or is this artists in general?
He said it in your climate.
Only in Canada.
Area.
Maestro, absolutely. Maestro was very like, you know, you got like Big Daddy. You know, I will say, this no diss to Maestro. I just felt Maestro like he definitely borrowed or carried over inspiration from Big Daddy Kane. Right? If you know, literal Gippo, I just can't hold back a focus like that type of shit. But
that was also Rakim.
I know, but I'm just saying, like he used to do like the focus, the flow, you know, those type rhyme flows, right? Maestro was doing that on his first album. And Len-Dor, he had a girl song on there too, bro. Remember?
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know, but it was similar. It was similar to the one that was on the Big Daddy Kane's first album.
Yeah, I think it was more like an LL Cool J type tune, though. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Len, you got one for me?
Well, seeing the fact I wasn't brought up here in Canada, but that one artist that really, you know, shook me when I was younger was but it's two guys, Daz Effects.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. They were the most abstract at that time, if that makes any sense. Like they did things on tracks that were ahead of its time. The way how they flow, they said things, the lingos, the spaces and their gaps in their verses, how they play with certain things. Like those are some of the things I try to incorporate in my music. You know what I mean? Daz Effects to me was they were that, you know, trigger for me. They were those dudes. And then the Bush Babies, Souls of Mischief.
Oh yeah.
Hieroglyphics.
He said one, bro.
I'm just saying I'm sorry. That's just me. Sorry.
Yeah, hip hop is a rabbit hole. Shout out to Books and Crazy Dre's from New Jersey. By the way. All right, let's continue. I got about 3 more questions and then we're gonna phase off. I usually ask a legacy question at the end. We're gonna ask a topic question at the end. Well, let's dive into something deeper. United States and Canada has always had a great relationship until recently. I don't know what the hell is going on in the government, but keeping it music, what hip hop artists from America and what hip hop artists from Canada would make a classic to you in a collaborative project? Who would you say? No restrictions, any genre.
You know, yeah. You know what jumps out at me right away? And this could just be because of Redman, okay? Redman and Socrates work together. And Socrates producing or doing a Redman record would be ill. Just an idea. Right?
I agree with that.
They've done a lot of records together, though.
Redman and Socrates.
They did a lot of records together, man.
A full record would be ill, you know?
I don't know if it's a full record, but I know there's like I forget what record it was, but there was like Socrates did a lot of production and singing on it.
There's like 3 or 4 joints. I know what you're talking about. It was like the record before or something.
Yeah. Go ahead, Len-Dor.
I think Redman is one of those dudes. A Redman and Socrates project with a little sprinkle of Cardinal in it will sound pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be dope.
Oh, shout out to Red. That's my GOAT. So Red, you watching? Hey man. So Socrates. Hey yo. We can bring that back. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna say this though. I think one record that'd be pretty hella dope, and I'm gonna say this because me and him had a discussion about it the other day, but would be Madlib and Len-Dor.
I'm a huge fan of Madlib.
Frack and DJ Premier.
Give me Dilla.
Old Premier.
Dilla. Okay, I'll take Premier. I'll take Premier.
Old Premier or new Premier? Which one you like better?
You know what? There was I know exactly where you're going with this. He's gotten his shit back together now, but there was a little part where he was going from his he transitioned into now. So that in between was a little iffy. Like when he, not to say anything about this because I did like some of the songs, like the ASAP Ferg stuff like that was kind of like, but then he's got his shit locked now. I think right now though, not to change the topic, but I think someone like Donnie Quest and it would be dope on a Pete Rock record or something like that. You know what I mean? That'd be a dope record. Like Pete Rock's killing shit right now for me.
Pro Logic and Alchemist. I would love to hear Pro Logic on a late Alchemist production. I want to hear that.
That'd be crazy.
Well, we put it out there, so let's make it happen, y'all. When we get the snippet to this, send it to them.
Do it.
Only thing stopping the opportunity is our doubts. So let's send it to them. All right. So here's the next question. Let me go into my notes. Give me a second. Yes, I take notes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a real journalist on this. I don't just talk from my ass. I actually
shit, man.
See what I'm saying? So I want to ask you a question, sir. Okay, life is the classroom without walls, and experience is the best teacher. What did you experience in hip hop that has changed your life forever?
You know what I was going to say? This not to repeat, but what I've experienced in hip hop is the experience of building my self confidence through the art, going out performing, being confident about myself. You know what I mean? I got a speech impediment, so when I go rhyme, I kick rhythm and I'd be good, So it was a way to build my self-confidence, and that affected me for the rest of my life. Like I feel, I consider myself to be a, somewhat of a confident person. I think I put that on the music, or on the, you know what I mean? But
for me, I think what has really been moving for me in this whole experience with hip hop is that for a while I kind of like was a bit of in between when it came to the reception of my style of hip hop, if that makes any sense. Because sometimes the artists, you have confidence in what you do, but you don't know how people are going to receive it, and you don't know how it's going to be received in the way that you think it's going to be received. And me being able to work with guys like Pro Logic and Fraction, S, some other artists I've met, whatever, even some of the guys in the US, DJ Quan, Raw King, Notes, Travesty, Condu, like it gave me much more of bigger confidence in stepping into the realm as a writer and an MC. Pro used to always tell me, yo, you have no idea how dope your voice is, Akil. You have no idea how dope your voice is. And I didn't believe it all the time, but seeing how people respond to it when I perform and when they listen to my music, I'm eternally grateful. And, being able to do this and do it at this level and seeing the appreciation from people. When I met Fraction at Pro Logic's video shoot. It was the first time I ever met him. And Fraction and I, we hit it off like high school homeboys, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I couldn't believe that this dude was so cool, and immediately I knew, like, you know what? Yeah, like, this is exactly the circle I want to be a part of. So yeah, if you want, I really enjoy the reception I get from hip hop and my peers. I really do. That's a big thing for me.
Okay, the biggest thing I think I've learned from all of this is, excuse the term, but fuck the noise, fuck the outside interference. Stay inside and stay in your mind. You know what I mean? Like, just stay in control, because this is your destiny, and no one's gonna take you off your track if you're on point. You know what I mean? So stay on task. You know what I mean? Endure. You know, and you know, at the end of the day, like all these, you see people that sometimes you don't feel deserve the success, but you know what? Maybe that was meant for them and not meant for you. You know what I mean? Maybe your life isn't meant to go that way, and this is just a journey to get to where you're supposed to go. So, like, as far as the music goes, I've met a lot of great people in my life, but I'll tell you, only a handful of those people still around me. You know what I mean? So, and I used to think they were friends, but I didn't realize at that point in time they were acquaintances. So, what I'm saying is, it's taught me a lot about myself, and it's taught me a lot about just the industry and all that other stuff too. But it's mostly the focus on that. The main basis of the question is keep on your task, no matter what. Just stick to your own guns. Don't pay attention to the outside, the haters, the naysayers, whatever. Just that shit don't even matter at the end of the day, you know. So that's basically it.
All right, time for the plug. How'd y'all like being on Heritage Hip Hop, the Mic Council? Would you come back, or would you like other people to come? What?
Yeah, well, for me, yeah, hell yeah, man, this was dope as shit, man. I do this every day, all day, man. It's fun for me. I love talking hip hop music, and I'm Italian. I'll talk. Go ahead. But yo, bless up, man. Thank you for having us, man. Thank you for having me. At least, you know, big up, man. Bless up. Stay blessed.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, man. You know what I mean? Heritage Hip Hop full effect.
Yes,
Yo,
sir.
Krev, again, this is my second time being on your panel, bro. I really appreciate it, bro. Every time, a guy like you who has such a deep dedication in keeping this art alive, and your insight is very refreshing and brand new. I'm always going to be in your corner, bro. You have no idea. I'm always going to be in your corner. So I really appreciate you having us. And these two dudes, bro, I consider them brothers because they helped me create one of the best masterpieces of my musical journey. So yeah, I'm very happy that you had them on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
The pleasure.
Can I ask you one question?
Y'all can ask any questions y'all want. If y'all got some.
So how did music change your life? How did hip hop music change your life?
It taught me that I have an identity what school did. There you go. And I went to Catholic school, and I talked about this at my job. When I went to Catholic school, all the angels were Caucasian and the demons were brown skin. So I saw that in school. So when I used to ask questions, now I'm not a perfect angel, y'all. I was an asshole as a kid. I'm sure y'all could tell how I ask questions. But when I started asking questions, it caused a lot of issues. And that was around the time Malcolm X came out. So this was like 92, 93. I was asking a lot of questions in school. And what school didn't give me, Ice Cube, Chuck D, KRS-One, Wise Intelligent, those were the people who were Rakim Shabazz. Let's not forget Rakim Shabazz. Okay. Those were the people who were teaching me, and also my brother. He's an MC as well. And I learned a lot more about certain things. I wanted to rhyme too, y'all. And Tupac once said in the song, Marvin Gaye used to sing to me, "You taught me G and black was the thing to be." I had a line like that where I said, Chuck D used to rap to me, used to tell me that being black was the thing to be. So it was like, that's what music gave me. Music gave me what most people in this country don't have, and that's a self-identity. So if I shout out to the 5%ers, shout out to the political MCs, those are the ones that that's what music gave me. All right. Any more questions? Because I get to ask questions on my own show. I mean, y'all got any more? I mean, y'all go right ahead.
Oh, yo, here's a question for you. I don't know if you know, because you're in Jersey, you might know. You're familiar with Redman's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a song called Rockefeller. You know what I'm talking about? I sat down and opened my mind and said it's time for me to design the right lines. Who is that rapping?
Rockefeller.
Is that his name? Because I can't find any information on this guy, man. And when I heard him, I thought he was like Rakim. I was like, holy shit.
Your song's named after him. He died. Yeah, that's why it's called Rockefeller R.I.P. Yeah.
Oh man, that dude, man, that dude. Thank you for that.
He said his name at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if he was just
rock on.
I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything with it.
Yep, that's Rockefeller, y'all.
That's dope.
Shout out to There Is a Dark Side, classic album that Redman hates.
Oh well,
I saw that.
I love that
when he was on acid. He's on acid all the time.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of the stories. He's my GOAT. I love Redman.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Redman, it would be Nas and Biggie, but Redman is my number one. What's up, man? What's up?
What is your favorite record off of this album that I did?
Bullpen.
Wicked.
Case closed. Case closed.
There it is.
Bullpen. Now, I will give you something else. I like the Hate It or Love It sample that was used on the album.
See that?
I like that. I like the fact that you gave yourself credit for love in the score. Because see, when love comes on, right, you get that old Motown flavor. It was just straight soulful. Then you start talking. So then the soul's getting you feeding the soul with the harmonies, but you're talking to the brain and the spirit with the words. I like that. And the same thing happened with the score. Though the score has a different tempo, music is all about harmonies, rhythm. The beat made you get into the mode, but it's the music, it's the words in the music that nourishes it. That's why it's disrespectful when you say, I don't like hip hop, I want to listen to the beats. That means the person writing the song either missed the mark or you're just ignorant to the message.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to hip hop, remember, the beat opens you up, but it's the lyrics that transcend you to the understanding. So don't sleep on that. You know what I'm saying? Plus, another thing I want to give y'all credit for is the cover. You know,
that's Len-Dor, man.
I want to give you respect in this way, because back in the day, we used to look at album covers. We used to read the liner notes, and a cover could do so much. Why is the man in black and white, but the flowers are in color? Think about that, y'all. Think about this. And I said this in the blog. I said this in the article that hip hop is a life or death struggle to be heard and to be understood. And just like a flower has to fight to be experienced, that seed has to die. Yet the seed also has to be planted. So when it dies, it's not really going away. It's just giving birth to something to produce more seeds, which is more inspiration, more thought. This album does that, because if not for the seeds that are implanted here or implanted through the soul, through the bop, if not through those seeds, do you miss the conversation of manhood, love, disappointment, the lies of life, or more importantly, faith, and how we protect it instead of giving it away. See, there's a lot of messages in this album, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I got to give y'all respect for all of you. I want to give all of you respect for your contribution to hip hop, because I take it very serious. And though I believe that hip hop is an extension of God, we got to give God the glory by giving it truth and not just shake what your mama gave you, even though that sometimes is very nice. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to lie to y'all. I like it. You know what I'm saying? But let's go out with the final question of this interview. I would like to add each one of y'all to answer this. And this is a very serious question. It's not the legacy question, Len. You got to answer this one too. All right. Now, with America, Canada, and the war on the brink of economic crisis, now on the brink of trade wars, now on the brink of questioning leadership, how do we use the music to stay afloat? Not as producers, not as consumers and people looking for hope in the world that's becoming hopeless. What do you say?
Hey, man. Best we can do is speak the truth, man. You know what I mean? And remain united at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's political discourse and political positioning back and forth that I don't think has anything to do with love on either side. You know what I mean? I feel like the love is there, always been there. You know what I mean? As long as we just keep speaking our, you're the voice, right? So at the end of the day, you know, you're kind of a voice. Not every song's got to be politically charged, but we are the voice. Best we can do is put those energies out there, man, to kind of change the way it is, or to make it known that there's love out there, right? You know what I mean? But
Len-Dor, are you answering or?
Yeah, with Crab always comes with these questions that make you kind of like, I think what we do now is needed more than ever. I think that's one thing ProLogic does really well, is that he's brave enough to get in your face about it, and his music is beautiful enough to highlight it, if that makes sense. And I think now more than ever, we need to have music like to point the way of what the truth is and really challenge the standards of what they're trying to set in the world right now. And between Canada and the US, we have to realize that all this is not really real. It's just puppeteered by politicians who are just being evil. And as my boy Fraction say, ostentatious. You know what I mean? They're being facetious. They're being evil. They're really playing with us. That's what they're doing. They're playing with us. So I think as long as we create music to highlight these things and show the truth of what's really going on behind the scenes, we could save generations. We can, if they're willing to listen.
Yeah, the one thing I would encourage more than anything in this whole situation that everyone is in is don't let the fear porn and the propaganda get to you. Be true to yourself and speak your truth, because no one's going to speak it for you. You got to be able to say what, this is the thing is, like, I've had a lot of people come at me, like I've said, saying, you're saying too much. You're saying this, you shouldn't be saying that, and to me, it's just like, what, if I don't say it, who's going to say it? So to hell with it. I'm going to say it. And the one thing, going back to Jordan Peterson, you have to risk being offensive in order to have them conversations. You know what I mean? You might not be correct, but that's the whole thing, is everyone thinks that because I'm saying something, I'm standing on that completely. It's like, if you have facts that can change my mind on things or make me see something otherwise, no problem. I'll accept it. I'm not that much of an idiot that I can't appreciate it and say, hey man, you know what? I was wrong about that. You know what I mean? Thank you for opening my eyes to it. So that's basically it. Like I mentioned before, like Paris. I don't know if you remember the rapper Paris. I used to listen to Paris as a white kid, at 17, 18 years old, listening to that stuff. And I didn't understand it because I didn't live in the States, but I do understand what he was trying to explain to me. You understand what I mean? So I had an idea of what the situations were, stuff like that. So like, I'm not that stubborn or pig-headed that I can't admit when I'm wrong, but don't be afraid to speak what's on your mind. If you're going to get corrected, then stand corrected. No problem. Anyways, that's what I would say.
Hey, shout out to everybody on Instagram watching. Y'all lucky. I'll let this run for the whole joint, because usually on Instagram, I cut it off. I need y'all on YouTube. Subscribe to Heritage Hip Hop. Y'all see that at the bottom. We got a YouTube page. I want to give a shout out to, let me give some names, because we got the Somerville line. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to my man Jux Diamonds, another artist. Shout out to Seven the Panther, another artist I'll be able to build with. Thank y'all. Thank you to everybody on Facebook, and thank you to everybody on YouTube, especially. They said they wanted me to reintroduce the guests. This is Len-Dor, ProLogic, and Big Fraction. You know what I'm saying?
Big Fraction.
And the album that we talk about is I Need My Flowers by Len-Dor, which is available now on Bandcamp. You know that thing is sold out. It's out of stock. So you know what y'all could do? Y'all could buy that digital copy and make sure you own it, because say anything happens to the internet, at least you got something that you own, that you keep, and that you can listen to. You know what I'm saying? Get that album. The albums, if you like it, I'm telling you, or you love it, buy it, because it's worth it. There's not a lot of music that's worth getting, and this is something worth getting. We got 3 Canadian MCs. That's just to show you that heritage hip hop is just not United States driven. We're from New Jersey. We go all around the world. We introduce you to your future favorite artists today while celebrating the fabric that has built this hip hop culture from the ground up. We'd like to thank y'all for watching. Everybody, any last words? Any last words?
Stay blessed.
Peace and love.
Thank you again, and blessings to everyone.
And spend some money. All right, we're going to see y'all later.
Hide the record.
We're going to see y'all later. Peace.
Peace.
And we
real hip hop, real